everybody, and welcome back to the Waterlocks YouTube channel. Today we're going to do some quick tips on a couple small pieces of wood for our Universal Tung Oil Sealer. It's been out for a little while now, and I think it makes a lot of projects pretty easy. The key is just to follow the instructions. Objective is rub on a little bit of finish, let it soak, rub off the excess. I repeat, rub off the excess. That's the most important part. So we're going to get right down to it. So I got two pieces of wood here. I got a piece of hickory and a nice piece of walnut. These are flooring scraps. And then we have our Universal Tung Oil Sealer product. What we're using to apply that is we have a gloved hand. We have a rag. Two rags is usually ideal. One to wipe on, one to wipe off. Another object you can use to wipe on are these facial sponges. As long as they're not impregnated with any sort of soap or materials, but they're basically just a soft white woven sponge, non-abrasive. You can get another sponge and wrap a t-shirt around it or wrap a rag around it. Basically you're looking for something that's going to hold up to rubbing against a semi-rough surface and not fall apart on you. So that's really all there is to it. For something really small, you can even cut this up into little sections and use it for wiping on and wiping off, or just a project here and there, and then discard. But we'll just use the rag just because it's the quickest and easiest. So we got our wood sanded to 120 grit. We wiped it down with a little bit of paint thinner mineral spirits and let it dry. And all we're going to do, so this is an 8-ounce bottle. This is plenty. We're just going to pour a little puddle. We'll take our rag and we'll rub it in. So you can see that color change. This has a little bit of solvent in it, but in general it's going to smell like oranges and oil. So with that first application, most of it is usually soaked up in the rag. So always get a little extra, and the bigger your applicator, the more you're going to lose in that. But we're just kind of looking for that color change. So it's way too much for the second coat, but again, we're just kind of rubbing that in. Get all the nooks and crannies. Doesn't have to be perfect, don't have to go with the grain. We'll get the edges and the corners. And this is pretty viscous, so you're not going to be slinging it around. You don't need to worry too much about dust, because again, we're kind of rubbing it in. You don't want it to be filthy, obviously, but that's all there is to it. That's the hickory, so we're going to let that sit off to the side, and we're going to move to our walnut. And you can see that it brings out that rich color that Waterlocks is known for, and tung oil in general. So this has the same tung oil, the same resins in it as our original products that we're really known for. This is we got a knot here, so it's particularly absorbent. So we'll put a little dab on there. And usually the more you put on, that just means the more you're going to wipe off in the end. Again, we're getting it on all the edges, all the surfaces. That knot's really absorbing it, but that's okay. That's what we expect. So if you look in the light there, it's pretty uneven, it's kind of shiny, and that's what we're looking for, both on the walnut and the oak. We got a fair amount in our rag there, so you can continue to wipe it. But basically we're going to let this soak in for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to come to the critical part, which is we're just going to buff off all the excess. So you don't necessarily need to spend all day rubbing it in, getting it, buff it till it's dry, do any of that. We're just going to get everything coated, look for that color change, get down low and make sure you kind of got everything a little bit shiny. It's probably going to look streaky, probably going to look uneven. That's totally fine. Again, we're going to let the tung oil do its job. We're going to let it soak in, and we're going to come back in about 5 minutes, and we're going to wipe off the excess, and then we'll let it sit overnight, and we're ready to go. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes since we put our Universal Tung Oil Sealer onto our scrap pieces of wood here. So now we're going to do, again, the most important part and buff off that excess. Sit you down here. So we just have a little bit of shininess, not much on there. It's kind of hard to tell, but let's see if we can get the light reflected there. So you get a little bit of shine. It's going to even take the rag we already used. We're going to fold it over till we get a nice clean dry side. what we do with wipes. Get a nice even luster over the whole piece, and we're done. Again, wipe off the excess, got a nice even shine, and we're done. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes since we buffed off the excess for our little Universal Tung Oil Sealer pieces. Again, we have our hickory and our walnut piece here. I was trying to get some, you can see some of that depth there, even in the soft grain portion. You can see it's still a little dry there, but it tends to even out as you put coats on. But you still get good, really rich depth and three-dimensionality with this Universal Tung Oil Sealer product. Which is what we're looking for that tung oil and what really sets Waterlox apart. You can see it a little bit more, a little bit on this hickory as well. Again, it's really hard to kind of show in a video, but you get kind of that nice luster that we're going for. So again, it's been about 5 minutes. We're fully dry to the touch. If you rub it, you can definitely get oil off, but this is how your piece should be done when you buff off the excess. Buff it on, buff it off, and you're basically dry. If dust falls on it, you can brush it right off. You're not going to be walking on it or stepping on it or working on it yet. It's still setting up and drying. It'll be nice and dry and hard overnight. But the three key things are, we're not using a brush. We're not putting on a big wet coat. We are wiping off the excess, and a little goes a long way. So put a little dab on, wet it out, let it sit, wipe off the excess. That's the Universal Tung Oil Sealer. Works great on countertops, floors. We have some videos coming up later for that.